Hey lovelies, thanks for stopping by my channel today. We have more brushes to take a peek at. You know that I just love doing this. I love sitting down with all of you and giving you my thoughts on makeup brushes. Now, this will be a first impressions video today. I have not touched these brushes yet, but I could not wait to play with them and I figured I'd share my thoughts with all of you. We are today going to be trying out, I am so very excited. I went ahead and purchased the new BK Beauty and Nikki La Rose set. This is the start of the Pro Artist series from BK Beauty. I am really excited to get to try all of these with you. So again, this is going to be first impressions. We're going to do a full face. We're going to see just how much we can put these brushes to work. But if we haven't met before, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist. And here on my channel, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Along with giving you my thoughts on this new set is at the end of this video, I'm going to share a few of my tippy top favorite BK Beauty shapes because I do think if I've got my ish together, I should have this video up before the BK Beauty Black Friday sale, so it will be an opportunity for you to get a good deal. Now, I do also want to say I am an affiliate with BK Beauty, and some of the brushes that I will be showing you later have probably been gifted to me by the brand. This set I did purchase myself, and any links down below are affiliate links, and so I will earn a small commission if you decide to shop. That being said, you all know that I will be very honest with you. I do think, you know, if you've watched any of my other BK Beauty reviews, you will know that I always give my true and honest thoughts. I will also have everything timestamped. Okay. Let's take a look at these brushes. One thing that I really appreciate is the fact that all of these shapes really are fairly unique to what BK Beauty offers already. I will, by the way, be giving you some comparisons if you have a few of the BK Beauty brushes and you're sort of wondering like how they look. I am sure that, I actually can't remember. I did watch Lisa's video and I also watched Nikki's video, of course. Those are the only two that I've watched though, because I really just want to like have my own thoughts and honestly my own way that I would use these brushes. So I've sort of, it's been a while since I watched those videos, so I will probably forget the way that they're suggested to be used anyway, but I can't remember. I feel like maybe Lisa did do a comparison to existing shapes, so I'll just give you a quick peek in case you're like me and you have a lot of shapes from the brand. So before we dive into the brushes themselves, let's just take a peek at the packaging, the experience, because if you're planning on getting these as a gift, I do think that that's part of it. So we have this beautiful black box. I think I mentioned in my last video that BK Beauty is starting to offer their sets in these boxes, which just makes for a sleek appearance and also easy gift wrap, let's be honest. So we have the beautiful Nikki on the back here. Now, I do have to say, Nikki has just recently come onto my radar. One of my friends was telling me that she really enjoys watching her content and, you know, really appreciates her aesthetic. And I was like, okay, I really need to check this lovely woman out. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. So then all of a sudden I saw that this brush set was coming and I was like, wow, that's crazy timing. So I definitely wanted to watch Nikki's video to see her thoughts on her brushes, why she chose the shape she did. So I will have her video listed down below just because I think that that's, you know, I think that's a really great way to see how conceptually these brushes came about and, you know, the way that the artists themselves sort of envisioned them being used. Now, from what I gleaned from Lisa J's video, this is sort of like going to be the start of the new Pro Artist series. So I have a feeling that Lisa will be working with other professional makeup artists in the future to create shapes within this line. So this is, you know, obviously like an offshoot of the core line from BK Beauty. And you'll see as we get into this that obviously the aesthetic, the bristles and everything is a little bit different, Okay, so now let's take a look at the brushes. So this is how they come inside of the box. So they're, you know, very well nestled, all of the ladies in formation. I do think that there are a couple brushes in here that could be very multi-purpose, not just face or eye. You could sort of use them all over the face. And I think that that's really what Nikki intended. And I will say as a makeup artist, like you really definitely want some mega multitaskers because y'all, when we have our kits, we are hauling that stuff around God's green earth. Like, it's like you learn to be condensed and concise in your packing. And so it's important to have brushes that can kind of do it all on one face. Anyway, I'm already getting ahead of myself. All right, so we have 7 brushes to do a full face today. I'm definitely gonna be putting these to the test. We're gonna try to get as much use out of these and see just how multitask they truly can be. So we're gonna dive right into this. I will also let you know, by the way, that you can use my discount code, KeepBeautyReal, to save if you decide to shop and pick up these brushes. I do know that this is a brush set that isn't going to be on sale during the Black Friday sale, so I just wanna give you that, but I will give you all the other Black Friday details towards the end of this video when I give you my other favorites. All right, let's go ahead and get some makeup on this face. All right, why don't we start out with the eyes tonight? I thought what I would do is go through with my Spicy Neutrals palette. This is the BYOP from October, so I'll make sure to have that link down below if you do want to see the details on this palette. I've been using this one a lot, and I think it's very fall vibe, so we're going to go ahead and do that one. So what I'm going to do is actually start out with the N16. This is the Pro Concealer brush, and I do think that this actually is going to be a multitasker. You can use it for concealer. I'm going to use it to lay down some concealer on my lids because that's usually how I always start, but I do think that you could also use this for like one and done washes of cream shadow. I think that you could use this to like tap on product to be really pinpointed, a very precise contour. I think there's a lot you could do with this brush. We are today going to use it as a concealer brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop on my Haus Labs Triclone concealer. I just can't put this one down. I just can't put this one down. I'm really, really loving this concealer, and I've noticed that anytime I pick up something else, especially when I'm using something else for my under eye, I'm just kind of like, oh, I don't really love it as much. So that's always a good sign, you know, when you're like, I don't want to let go of you. So we're just going to blend a little bit of concealer onto the lid. This is usually what I do. I did actually pick up the Nars eyeshadow primer in the Sephora sale, but I haven't used it yet. I think it's actually, I have a pile of things on my stairs. Listen, moment of truth. I have a pile of things on my stairs right now that need to come upstairs and be put away, and I think it's in that pile. After I'm done filming this video, that is on the list for tonight. Getting rid of the chaos on the stairs. Does anybody else ever do that? Jeremy and I each have a side of the stairs where our stuff gets settled. My side is definitely overflowing right now, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay down a really thin layer of concealer. This is doing a nice job. I like how firm this is. Now, it doesn't take a lot of accuracy when you are doing concealer on the lids. It's not like, you know, as precise as I like to be when I get under the eye, but I am so far liking the way that this is laying down the product. All right, so I'm gonna take the N14 brush. This one is the Precision Multitasker, and this brush is one that I think is really going to be just that. It's gonna be a beautiful multitasker. I think that this is gonna be really good for, you know, doing what I'm about to do, just lay down some translucent powder, but I could see this being really great for intense cream products, you know, I mean, contour, yes, please. I honestly could also see this on like light makeup days, using it to buff a concealer into my skin or just a little bit of foundation, you know, when you're just kind of like, okay, I really just want a little bit of coverage in specific areas. I could see this brush being good. You all know that I am like team small brush. This is really nice. I do think already, and I don't mean that they are scratchy by any means, but both of these brushes have a little bit more of a feel to them than the traditional BK Beauty brush hairs. So you can probably even just tell in the look of them. And obviously this one is a little bit duo fibered, but they just have a little bit more of a feel. And to me, that usually means that you're gonna get more pickup. You know, you're gonna get a little bit more intensity of product on the brush. So that's a great thing for some people and not a great thing for other people. So it just really depends. Okay, so we're gonna take the N13. This is the Precision Blender. Now I have to say, I think that this is the one brush in the set that I feel like isn't very unique, and really honestly not even that unique to the BK Beauty family. It's a bit of a different density than the other brushes, but it's not really a unique shape. I like the fact that it still has a bit of taper to it, but it's not very tapered. So, you know, for only having one blender in this set, I think that, you know, it's going to be a multitasker, but it's not one that I think is like extra unique to this set. So I do just want to say that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take Toffee from Sydney Grace, and that's gonna be what I lay down just right through the crease to kind of start building up a shape. The brush is nice. It has, I don't know how to explain it other than to say it has more bounce back. Like the density is just like a little bit more springy than some of the other BK Beauty brushes that I have. It's nice. When I say that it's not unique, you know, I'm not like, I'm not like talking it down. I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. I feel like this is the shape that a lot of us probably have. Okay, so next we're gonna see just how detailed we can get with the same brush. I'm going into Voodoo, which is this deep shimmery shade. Now when you blend this out enough, it does become more like a satin, but I really wanna get something that has a little bit more depth in the outer part of my crease. So I'm just dipping the very tip of this brush. So maybe you can see there just a little bit on the tip of the brush. And with really light pressure, I'm just gonna lay this in the outer area. I'm gonna just go ahead and take whatever's excess on the brush and lay it down over here just so we don't have like too much to start with. And then I'll come back and kind of work that through. All right, I'm able to get a decent amount of precision with this brush, but it's just not, the size of it makes it a bit more difficult to use this for like mega precision on my hooded eyes, just a little bit. Now, of course, this is sort of like assuming that you're only going to be using these brushes on your eyes, which I think is probably not most of us. You know, I think even if you were giving this as a gift to someone, chances are that they probably have some other eyeshadow brushes. I'm dusting my brush off on a microfiber towel, and now I'm just going into Sydney Grace Peanut Butter, which is just it's a little bit more of a peachier toned nude, whereas Toffee is almost a little bit more olivey. And I'm just kind of like blending the area between those two shades. And again, I'm just working that into the very tip of the brush and laying it down and then applying more pressure as I go through. All right, I'm planning on using a very sparkly shade on the lid, so I want to use this smudger on the lower lash line first because I have a feeling it's going to take a little bit to get the sparkles out of this brush. So we're just going to go through with that initial matte that I used, that Toffee shade, and that I'm just going to buff on the lower lash line. All right, that was really easy and really quick. Maybe I'll take a little bit of that Voodoo shade on the N11 and just use that on my lower lash line as well. So I'm just kind of like stamping the product in. I'm just gonna pop this right on the lower lash line. I'll probably end up going back in with the smudger brush just to kind of blend this out. Okay, so really just on like that outer third. And then I'm taking the, N12, I don't know the names of these brushes yet, obviously, and I'm just gonna give that a little wiggle to blend that out. Yeah, I mean, that makes for a really, really easy, smudgy, smoky lash line. I really like a shape like this as opposed to like a traditional pencil shape, honestly, if you're using a dark shade that tends to have fallout, because I think when there's more movement in the bristles, let me get a pencil brush here. Okay, so I just grabbed a random brush. This is a Sigma, but when there's more movement into the bristles, I'll wait for my camera to focus. So obviously you're gonna get more movement. And so you can even see here, there's a little bit of powder on this brush. You're going to get more of that kick up. Whereas a brush like this, because it doesn't have quite as much bristle movement, you're not gonna get quite all of that like going everywhere. So when you're using a really dark shade that you're trying to control, this is really nice. Now that being said, this is also a fairly large size. So kind of depends on what you're looking for. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and wipe off that little smudger brush, and we're gonna use this to apply our shimmer. I think today I'm gonna go through with the shade that's in here from Cleona. This is Opulent. I really like this shade. I'm gonna be curious, but I think that there's enough. Yeah, it's so multifaceted. I was like, ooh, is this gonna be a little too cool toned for what we've got going on here? But I think we'll make it work. You know me, I'm always gonna use a shimmer like this with a wet brush. So I am gonna go ahead and spray some Fix Plus onto the brush. And first, I'm just going to tap this to make sure that we can kind of get a good lay down. That'll help us build up the color, but it will also be great because we're not going to get as much fallout. And then when I need to, I can just sort of use this to kind of glide along. Okay, cute, cute. So this got the job done, but it's not my favorite. It's just a little too short and too like stubby for this. I feel like maybe Nikki used her finger. I cannot remember for her shimmer shadow in her video. I know I'm not team finger, but I am actually going to try to do that just to build up this color like right on the lid a little bit more. Just a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna do the other eye and I'll be right back. Okay, I feel like on this side, I did not use my finger at all on this side, so I feel like I was able to build it up a little bit more. It definitely works. It's not necessarily my favorite. I know that this isn't a set that I'm like, oh yeah, this is a one and done set for me. It just isn't. So that's not what this is for, but I am trying to use it to its best ability. And in case you were curious and maybe you have makeup preferences like I do, and then you know about how you might use the brushes. All right, so I do have a bit of fallout. That is not on the brush. In fact, I have much less fallout on the side where I did not use my finger. So that's not on the brush. That's probably more just on the eyeshadow. It's a Clionadh Super Sparkly Shadow. What are you expecting, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna let this micellar water dry just a little bit. Make sure. I have done that before where I've gone to like clear away what I've done with a finger that I used for lid packing. So silly. So let's go ahead and do some complexion. So we're gonna work with the N17. So this is the Multi Pro face brush. You can see that we have a dual fiber brush here. This side is a little bit more coarse, and I don't mean that like as in it's like scratchy. You can just definitely tell it's gonna have a little bit more pickup, whereas this side is a little bit more silky soft. So what Nikki says is that this is really to be used with your creams. So that could be your foundation, your concealer, cream, contour, bronzer, any of those things. And this would be for powders. I will also say this side will be great for powders that tend to get a bunch of pickup and maybe it's like you want to be a little bit more delicate with them. This side though, I do think is going to be good if you have a hard pressed powder or you have a gelée product that you're wanting to use with this brush. If this is the shape that you're wanting to use that for, then this would be the side that you're going to want to do that. I do think that this side is just going to be a little too soft for those types of products. That being said, I do think that this is going to be nice. It's nice and soft enough even to be able, if you in a pinch needed to like set your concealer. And I think that, yeah, all of these brushes really do have a pretty decent taper to them so that you are able to get into these areas. If I really needed to, I could absolutely use this to like set my concealer, but I could also use it to like whisk powder all over the face. So again, multitasking. So let's go ahead, and it's funny because I know that this is the foundation that Nikki used in her video, but it is one of my favorites as well. So this is the Haus Labs. What I'm gonna do, as I usually do, is I'm gonna take a pump of this and then add in another moisturizer. And you know that I'm trying to use up the primerizer from Smashbox. I think that this is the same cocktail that I used when I did my Wayne Goss first edition brush review. By the way, if you are someone who also appreciates a natural hair brush, I will have that video linked down below as well. All right, so taking the cream side of this brush, I will also say I am not usually one to use I don't want to say that this is totally a paddle style brush, but it is, you know, it is a little bit more like a paddle shape. Now, BK Beauty in their last extension lineup, they had their sort of like paddle shape. This is definitely something that I could see getting more use out of than that one. That just isn't a shape. It's just not a shape that I use all that much. And that just oftentimes comes down to preference and how you like to do your makeup. So I am able to get up pretty close to where I laid down that eyeshadow. So I'm taking whatever was left on the back of my hand and I'm just tapping that as opposed to brushing it, tapping it over the areas that I need a little bit more coverage. Okay, so I do have to say, for a brush like this, sometimes what one of my concerns is that I'm gonna see more streaking. And always, even if I'm doing like buffing motions with the different brush, I always take my last, you know, motions and sort of brush down the face. And that just helps lay down any vellus hair that you have, you know, just kind of smooth everything out. So far so good. So now let's go ahead and we're gonna pop on a little bit of concealer. So I'm gonna take, again, same Haus Labs, and we're just gonna pop a little bit of this. I don't really need a lot because that Haus Labs foundation is pretty high coverage for what I usually prefer. And we'll go back in with the concealer brush. Now, I was a little bit worried because right up here on my inner corner, you all know that usually, like I might do my lower lash line right here before I put on concealer, but I always want to put on concealer on my inner corner before I do like any inner corner highlight, because I just have such dark inner corners that I want like a nice light base to be able to lay something over the top, especially because a lot of times I'm using something, you know, that's more like iridescent or translucent. So I want to be able to hide that darkness. So I was worried, because this is a little bit fluffier on the end, I was worried that I was to be able to get the lay down that I need, that I would like jab myself in the eye, and that's not happening. But I do have to be a bit more careful than I do when I'm using a brush that has a bit more of a crisp edge. So that's all, you know, within the preference that you're looking for. I have to say I probably prefer something that's just a bit more crisp on the edge, but I am not having any problems with this either. Okay, so now we're gonna take the N14, tap it back into translucent powder. I am, by the way, using this Bare Minerals Pressed Original Veil. I don't think that they make this anymore, and that kind of makes me sad. This was a product that I got, you know, through Influencer or something like that. I used it for a little bit, liked it, put it away, and then, you know, just kind of forgot about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really, really like this. So I am just going to, for now, powder my under eye and my inner corner. There's really nothing, there's nothing in this set that I would want to use for an inner corner. Yeah, there's just nothing here that's really going to work for me, I don't think. So I'm going to actually go through with the BK209, and I'm dipping into Meteorite from Terra Moons, and I'm just going to pop that on dry into my inner corner. I don't really want it to be like extreme, but I do want to have a little razzle dazzle there. I just don't think that that smudger brush would really work for me, because I just tend to like get it all over the place if I don't have like a small brush. Even this brush, it's clean right now and that's why I'm using it, but the 209 is about as big of a brush as I would really want to use. Now let's get a little bit of shape and color to the face. I'm gonna pull out my Salt New York Cream Tint Pros, taking the Sculpt shade in light medium. This is, you know, I mean, it really could be more of like a bronzer. So I'm going in with that N14. I just kind of like dusted it all off to get the powder off. And I'm just gonna go through and really use this more to sculpt out the face. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you know I am just not one to really do a lot of like major sculpting of the face. So I'm not going through, I almost never do a nose contour. For me, I just really like to get a little bit into the hollows of the cheeks, and I do always love a good contoured hairline. There's just something about like a little bit of structure on the temple that just, I don't know, it makes me feel really put together. Can I just say also, I have officially hit pan in this product, which, you know, takes a lot for me. So you can see just how nice of a color that is. It just gives that little bit of shape. Okay, I want a bit more of a like mauve-y blush. So I'm gonna take Dreamy from Sydney Grace, and we're gonna use the same brush. And this is gonna be what I use for blush. And I'm gonna kind of like build it up a decent bit. Yeah, I mean, this definitely works for blush. Though, I could really see it being just wonderful for cream highlight. I actually think if any of you have the Katie Jane Hughes Glow Kit, I think that this could be a really good brush because it would get into that pan. It's stiff enough. I mean, I know that the kit comes with a brush, but let's be honest, sometimes the brush isn't clean and we need a different brush, so. All right, that is really quite pretty. It did a great job. Because it's a smaller brush, you know, it takes a little bit more time to blend it in, but it can definitely be done. I'm gonna actually set this down with, let's see, which one would this be? Divine Rose from Pat McGrath, of course. So I'm using the darker bristles on the Multi-Pro face, and I'm gonna start by just popping this on and laying it down, and then we'll go through and just sort of blend it out. Of course, using a cream and a powder is really gonna help our blush stay all day, which I am all about. You know, I am team blush. So give me all of the blush. I want it to stay. Okay, so now let's put the N15 to the test. I am going to use this just to give us a little bit of powder bronzing. I'm going to go through with the LYS matte bronzer. This is the No Limits bronzer in Motivate, which is the lightest shade. So I think I mentioned in another video recently, you know, I'm here in the Midwest. It's already getting cold, although it was actually pretty warm today. But I'm just losing that color that I have, and I just find it a little unnatural for me to have a very bronzed look come fall. I love this little baby hair moment here. Come on, guys. Okay, so we'll give a little bit on the temples. All right, and now that I have the color powders everywhere I want them, I'm just gonna give this a quick whisk on my microfiber towel, and I'm gonna go through with the Hourglass Veiled Translucent Setting Powder. I'm almost out. I'm so proud. I'm almost out. It's been a long time coming, but I'm just gonna take a little bit of this and whisk it anywhere that I didn't set down with a color powder, especially where I want a little less glow. You know, I love a good glow, but I do like a bit more mattification right through the T-zone on my nose, because that just tends to get a little bit more shiny. And then especially right here on my forehead. Yeah, the N15 brush worked really nicely for that bronzer and also for the powder. Now, I don't think that this is going to be replacing my love for the 111 for bronzer. That is the dense bronzer brush, but it does apply, I don't want to say heavier, but like more concentrated. So for things like this, you know, when I'm just looking for that little bit of depth and shape, this would be a really nice like airbrushed finish. So see, I'm telling you, sometimes you just get surprised by brush shapes that you were like, I don't need that, but it is actually really nice. Okay, so now all I have to do is add a bit of definition to my brows. I'm gonna just go through with a brow powder. That's actually what I did in my Wayne Goss video too. Just liked the look of it. So I'm gonna try using this one. This is the N11 again. And I'm gonna go into the deepest shade actually, and just do my tail and then work back up into my arch. I mean, this makes for a very quick and easy brow. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm taking the medium shade. I'm using this Brow Gal compact that I've had for ages. I do think I'm going to let it go though after this video, because I just realized it was funny, because after doing that Wayne Goss video, I found a piece of black plastic on my vanity, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this from? Is it from one of my new brushes? Is it from one of Wayne's compacts that I use? I was like, I use so many like black glossy products. I was like, I just don't know what this is from. And then I just realized it was from this. And so I've had this for a very, very long time. It was probably just like, you know what? It was the universe telling me I just needed to let this one go. So I will be doing that after this video, but these are nice products. I mean, it's a brow powder, you know? I like the finish of it. The colors in here are nice, but it's nothing that I don't have otherwise. Okay, so I'm just taking a little bit of this middle color here. That's the darkest middle. And then I'm just working that into the front. I don't really like a big bold front. What's left from my microblading years ago is enough for me, but I do just want to make the color and the finish match up. All right, I'm going to use the N11 for one more thing. I think I'm going to do a little bit of lip contour. I'm going to use the same Salt New York shade that I used on my cheeks, because I do think that this is going to work pretty nicely. Although I know that Nikki likes to sort of like round through the center just to get that appearance of like a fuller lip. I prefer a sharp, like Cupid's bow. So I'm just going to keep my lip line a little bit more sharp, but go a bit outside of the edge just to get that contoured look. And on this note, as I'm going through and doing this, this is really just to create a bit of like a shadow, so it makes it look like my lips are fuller. I will say, if you are trying this technique, or really any contouring technique in real life, as we say, it is about the subtlest of changes. We are not trying to completely reshape our face, right? This isn't drag makeup, although I can love and respect some drag makeup. Like, drag queens are the original face changelings. Like, that is really to sculpt and change your face and make it look like something else. It's more theatrical. If you are close to someone who's wearing drag makeup, you can see all the tricks. You can see everything. This is really just about a like 10% shift, and enhancing what you want to enhance and, you know, sort of camouflaging or detracting from what you don't want as much. It's not about completely changing your face, in my opinion. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead, brow gel, mascara, we'll find a lip. I'll put that on with you in just a second, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on this set and talk about my favorites from BK Beauty. Okay, lies, lies, all the lies. So I did a little bit more than what I said I was gonna do. Not a lot. I did decide to go through with some setting spray, Charlotte Tilbury. I'm about done with her. And then I decided to add a little bit of waterline liner. So I just went through with the Urban Decay Demolition. Yep, just for a little bit of that. Little, you know, just a little extra smokiness in this situation. All right, so now for a lip. Let's go through with Gabby from Buxom. Old classic YouTube. That's what we're talking about. I think this is gonna be a nice combo. It's just gonna bring out maybe a little bit of those extra colors that are in the Cleona shadow. Talking while applying lip gloss. We're getting reckless up in here, y'all. Okay, so I'm really happy with this makeup look. I feel like everything came together very seamlessly. Absolutely not a problem. So I just wanted to give you a chance to see the makeup up close. Okay, so now before we get into my top favorite brushes from BK Beauty, I do want to just compare some of the other shapes from BK Beauty to the Nikki La Rose set. So I'm gonna pull out some of those and then you'll get those favorites. All right, 20 minutes later after digging through my brushes, so I'm gonna apologize. Obviously, the Nikki La Rose set will be dirty because I just used it, and some of these brushes are dirty because they were in my dirties. What can I say? Real life, y'all. Okay, so, I had to search for one brush in particular for a while. So let's talk about the N17. This brush, again, is a shape that I really don't use a lot. It worked really nicely today. I don't know that it's one that I would necessarily reach for all the time. I will say the one from BK Beauty that is most close to this in shape is the 113, and that is the, I believe it's called the small flat powder. The thing about this is definitely more dense. It's much more dense and stiff. Now, obviously Lisa intended for this to be used for powder, but I could see a lot of people using this for a paddle foundation brush. This is not something that I use very much. It really isn't. It isn't one that I grab for very often. But again, I just don't prefer a paddle. I also really don't prefer a heavier dose of powder very often. And I feel like that's what you get from a brush that's dense like this, is just a heavier laydown of powder, in my opinion. I would prefer something of this density. So if you have this one and you're wanting something that's a little bit less dense, this would be a nice way to go. Obviously, it is just a bit bigger though too. So pros and cons there. And again, I do think that this would be a nice multitasker. If you are someone where you want less brushes that do more, this is a great option. You know, you are really able, this side worked really nicely for powder blush, and that blush is actually pretty pigmented from Pat McGrath, so it laid it down really nice and softly. Okay, so within the N16, now because this is considered the concealer brush, I do want to compare it to the A506, which of course is the little mini contour brush. So this is one that I use for concealer a lot. You can see that they are a somewhat similar size. The A506 is a little bit bigger, but obviously the shapes are very, very different. Now, again, I said that my preference is to have something that's a little bit more sharp, like this brush, to just really be nice and crisp, rather than something that's a little bit more feathery like this. The pro to this is you are really able to do a bit more buffing, I would say, with this brush, whereas this to me really is more of like a lay down and a pat down brush. You know, you're not really going to be doing a lot of this. I think that these could both be nice multitaskers. I have used this for contour. I have used it for highlight. I think you could do the same with this. I think I said that in the beginning of this video. So it just really depends on how you like to do things. I will say I feel like I liked this brush on the lid better than this brush on the lid though too. So the N15. Again, I don't really have a lot of bigger brushes. Most of my bigger brushes I have gotten rid of. I do have the 104 from BK Beauty. You will be able to see this is a much bigger brush and it is less tapered. So Nikki's design is, you know, more tapered, smaller. The other brush that is, you know, sort of similar is the 108. So I'll put these two right next to each other so that you can see them. Again, Nikki's brush is still bigger and still a bit more contoured. So as far as Nikki's is a little bit more fluffy. So this brush, the 108, I actually use this mostly for like cream face products. I find that it does really well for picking up cream bronzer. I find that it, you know, again, it does beautifully for cream blush. So this is more of a cream brush for me. Whereas this one I think you could use this for creams, but I will definitely mostly use this for powders. And again, it really did create a beautiful airbrushed bronzed finish. And I think that, you know, if you use something that's a bit more pigmented than this, you can still get that like J.Lo glow vibe. You don't have to go quite as like soft as I did. So unsung hero, or at least unsung surprise for me. This is like the week of getting brushes that I didn't think that I really needed in my life that I might actually use quite a bit. All right, so now working into the N14, this is a brush that I am just really liking. I love the density of it. So again, we're gonna compare it to a couple brushes from the core line. So here we have the 108. Again, I would say that it is a bit more dense than the 108. Then when we work into the 110 brush, this brush is another one that I just don't find that I use a lot. I know Lisa said that like, oh, if you were to, you know, let a brush and a sponge have a baby, it would be this one. I don't like that baby. Like, I'm not saying I don't like the brush, but it just isn't something that I'm going to utilize a lot. I don't know. It isn't small enough for me, because what I would want that for is for my under eye. And this is not an under eye brush for me. This could absolutely be an under eye brush for me. So I could actually see using this for concealer, but it did work really, really nicely for the powder application. I would prefer this one over this one. I will say, as I'm going through here, all of these brushes are nice quality. It's just, this is definitely like my preference and how I choose to use these brushes. Okay, so where are we next? I've got brushes all over here. Okay, so let's take a look at the N13. So this blender brush, I feel like, you know, it's like a longer, more tapered version of the 202. And it's definitely more tapered than the 212. And obviously it's smaller than Angie's 503. So also when we talk density, this is more loose than the 202. It definitely has a bit more movement to it. Yeah, this one's just a little bit more tightly packed. This is a little bit looser. And I know when I was using this brush, I said that it had like a little bit more like, did I say like springiness? There is just something to this. It is a little looser on the tip of the brush, but it does have some nicely packed density. That could be just because of the length of the bristles, but it's similar. It's similar. I do think that this one is a bit more tapered, so you do get a bit more possible opportunity to use this to really get, you know, like I said, when I use that Voodoo shade and just being able to work that in and not like make it a super blended moment. Well, you want it to be super blended, just not like really blown out. I just don't think that this is a unique enough shape for me. It's a nice brush, but I have a lot of brushes that are somewhat similar to this brush. Okay, so now the N12. So I wanted to show this because I did use this as a lid packer today. I wanted to show this next to the 212. Is this the No, this is the 209. Geez. So this is my favorite lid brush from BK Beauty. It just has, you know, again, I'm team small brush. I really like the intricacy that I can get with this one. Now here is the other smudger brush from BK Beauty. This is the 204, and you can see the size difference. Not only is it wider, but the bristles on this brush are also longer. So that does mean that you're gonna get a much more smoky, blown out feel with this smudger as opposed to this one. This is a nice brush. Did I need it? No, but I do like the fact that it's, you know, going to be a really quick, easy brush to use, and it could be a multitasker if need be. I was able to get, you know, a really nice lid application, but it wasn't my favorite. So now going into the last brush, I just want to show the N11, the angled brush next to the 208. I mean, these are by no means similar. So you can see how much bigger the N11 is compared to the 208. I will also say that the 208 is a bit more flexible. So this is the way that I prefer to do a winged liner. I think that this brush is also pretty nice for putting brow hairs through your brows. This, again, I mean, it tapped on that darker color really easily. It did also put the powder through my brows in like 2 seconds. So that makes for a really quick brow brush. So this just isn't a brush that I need a lot, but it can definitely be used. I didn't do any liner today. I just really didn't feel like it. It's rare that I do like a full look like this and then also want liner. Usually if I'm doing liner, that's the star of the show. But again, I could see this being really nice for a smudgy liner. Like if you like more of a smoked out liner, this is going to be really nice to do that with. So those are my initial thoughts on this brush set. So in hearing myself and my thoughts, I probably should have taken a pause for a moment and been like, is this worth getting this set really? For me right now, at the end of the day, probably not. There are a few brushes in here that I will definitely use, and like I said, brushes that are in here that I didn't really think that I'd use a lot that I probably will end up doing. But I do think it would have been more advantageous for me to wait for a singles opportunity. And of course, that being said, we all know that I have a lot of brushes. I have a lot of shapes already. So this is me being very nitpicky and talking about my collection. So that being said, who do I think that this would be a nice brush set for? I think that this is really going to be a brush set for someone who already has some shapes, who is looking to sort of add to that collection. Because for me, I think that there are a couple essentials that are missing for this. I think a different flat shader would be great. I also think something that's a bit smaller for an inner corner or those like little pinpoint spots. I really think that the brushes in here, as far as face brushes, you could absolutely do a full face with, as I did. I had no problems with that at all. I think it's just missing a couple eye brushes. So that being said, I am team small brush. I am also team give me all the sparkle. So I do think between these two eye brushes, if you were like very simple, you like just like a wash, you could use this and then also use it for shimmer, or, you know, really easily just like put on a bit of shimmer this way. It can absolutely be done. So for a minimalist, this could be a full eye set. I just find that for a lot of makeup wearers, it's not going to be. So I'm going to say this one more time. That is, again, my personal thoughts, and I'm definitely putting some of my preferences into that opinion. So if you find that 6 out of the 7 of these brushes is really worth it to you, I think it's probably worth buying the bundle because you're going to be getting a discount versus the prices that are going to be coming out when this is available in singles, if it is. Now, if you find that there are a couple brushes in here that you're like, oh, yeah, I don't think that's a need, I honestly would wait. You know, if you found 1 or 2 Rockstar brushes in here that you're like, that's my dream brush, Kelly, I really want that brush, I would just wait and, you know, see if there's going to be a singles opportunity in the future, because I do think, you know, maybe in showing you some of these other brushes, you're like, oh, that's actually close enough. I already have that one in my collection or something like that, you know. So that's my initial thoughts on these brushes. Are they beautiful brushes? Absolutely. It's just some of the shapes aren't necessarily going to be everything for me, but there were a couple shapes that I was like, wow, this is incredible. If in the future there are singles brushes, what I would definitely say for me are the standout brushes. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I do really like the N15 brush. Who would have thought? I also think the N14 brush, like these two for me were just amazing brushes today. Out of the eye brushes, I do really like this N12 brush, the smudger brush. I think that this could be a very easy lash line brush for me. I like a little bit of a blurred out look. I like the way that this performed. I don't think I would use it as a lid brush ever, but as a smudger brush, which is of course the way that Nikki intended it, I think it did really work really well. So these are the 3. So the N12, the N15, and the N14. These are the stars for me of the show. All right. So now let's get into some of the other stars. I'm going to give you some of my favorites from BK Beauty. I'm looking around. I can't let this be a 5-hour long video, so I'm going to narrow it down. All right, my top 10 BK Beauty brushes. I actually didn't intend to pick 10, but it's what came up and it just happens to work. So let's go through it. You're probably not going to be surprised to see the A506 brush in here. I just really enjoy this brush. I think it is a great concealer brush for under the eye. I also just really like it for pinpoint color. So this is one that I really loved. I think that, you know, they nailed it on the head with that brush. The other brush, and actually all 3 of these are from the extension, the core extension set, I believe. So we'll just go in order of numbers. We have the 109 brush. So this is sort of like the baby, or the midi 101, let's say, because obviously the A506 is the baby. This brush, you know that I am team small brush. I really like a brush that is a little bit smaller. This is something that I really like to use for foundation, but again, I can use it for cream blush. I can use the edge right here to lay down my cream contour and use the tip here to blend it out. It's another multitasker. I really enjoy this one. Then we have the 111. You're not going to be surprised to see this in here. I actually reached out to BK Beauty and I was like, can I please have another 111? Thank you. I don't want to bronze with anything else. So now it might be like, I don't want to bronze with anything else. But I just love this. I love this for a product that is, you know, maybe a bit harder to get out of the pan. It just applies product so well. For me, this is a huge bronzer brush. I know some of you have like bronzer brushes that are like as big as my face, and that's just not really my style, but this for me is a very big brush. So when I'm using this, I just feel like very like luxuriously just go into town with it. And I really love this brush. So the other brush that I love is on the other end of that spectrum. It's the 112. This little angled cheek brush is so nice. I think that for me, I prefer this with powder products just because it is a little bit looser than what I usually prefer to use with creams, but this does work really nice with creams as well. So again, it's another multitasker. I mean, you can use this for bronzer, for blush, for highlight. You could in a pinch even use this as your under eye powder brush. So it's another one, you know, team small brush. You're gonna see that I didn't put the 101 in here. And for those of you that have been on my channel for a while, you might be kind of shocked by that. And I found other foundation brushes that I prefer. If anything, this would be the brush that I would want to use for foundation. I do just prefer a small brush. And in all honesty, I've got one right here. And I think that at some point the 101 sort of went through like a metamorphosis. And I've just been finding that it just hasn't been, it's been a little floppier. I just have found over time that our love affair is just not as strong anymore. So it's still a nice brush. It's just not for me. I would much prefer this brush. And then I have a couple other foundation brushes from other brands that I prefer. So I just wanted to make note of that because some of you are probably going to be like, what? The 101 isn't in here? I do have, by the way, a favorite brushes video that's I'm planning on doing before the end of the year. It's just going to take some time. So please be patient there, but that one is coming. All right, let's talk about eye brushes. So I did talk about this one a little bit. This is the 208 brush. This is the tiny, tiny little winged liner or angled liner brush. This is a really nice, very accurate brush. I love this. It is so sharp and crisp. Again, you can use it for your brows to put hairs through your brows. You can use it for a very crisp liner. I really like that. Okay, for other brushes, we have the 207 brush. This brush for me is really nice, again, for really smoked out placement. You can also use it as a detailer brush, but again, you can really still use this like to blend. It's like to place and to blend. This is really great. I also love this when I need to pack color on the inner corner, like if I'm using a bright colored matte, or if I just really want like a really, really strong highlight, this would be the one that I would reach for. So the 207 one is one that I really like. Actually, after I did my inner corner, I saw it sitting over here and I was like, oh, I should have used the 207. And truly, this is a shape that is fairly unique to my collection. I do have a rougher brush that is similar to this, but it's even bigger than this. But again, both of those I use in the same way to like really pack on inner corner to give a super smudge. The rougher one is actually a little too big to do that. So this is just another one that I find very unique to my collection. And that's, you know, something that I really like to have is brushes that are different from all the other brushes that I have. So for blending brushes, I pulled out my two favorites. The A502 is probably my tippy top favorite. Angie just did such a nice job creating a shape that is really ideal for hooded eyes. This is the kind of shape that I like. I wish there was something in the Nikki La Rose set that was just a little smaller like this. But again, you know, at some point you have to cut off the brush set, right? So this is one that I really love. I have several of these. I do really like it. Is it a unique shape? Again, no. But if you're looking for a really nice synthetic blending brush that has some really nice precision opportunity, this is it. The other one that I really like is the 202. Again, this is a bit bigger than the Angie brush, the 502, but it is still tapered enough to where you get some really accurate placement. So I'll put them both up here so you can see. So both of these I really like and I use them a lot. Okay, the other two. Please do not shame me, but right now, do I only have one 205? I know I don't. I know I have more. I just couldn't find it. And this one I just recently used And what I'm about to say is both of these I love to use for cream eyeshadow, the 205 and the 203. You can see that 205 I used for a yellow shade. I think this is the About Face paint that I used, but these are just both really great for cream shadows. So I like the 205 if you're looking for something that you can lay down and also get, you know, a really nice, more buffing blend with, but it is a bigger brush, right? You have to be ready to really kind of have this all over the eye, whereas the 203 is my fave if I'm just looking to like keep a cream shadow on the lid, but still be able to get a bit of buffing. It works beautifully. And that is one thing about synthetic brushes. I just did this look the other day, so I really need to clean these brushes. But if you are someone who doesn't like immediately clean cream products out of your brushes, you should be using synthetics because you can really kind of get in there a bit more and scrub them and clean them out more properly. Whereas I just feel like I have to be a bit more delicate with my natural hair. So anytime I'm using cream or liquid eyeshadows, I tend to just use my synthetic brushes, and the BK Beauty ones are ones that I grab all the time. Okay, I think that's it. I am sure this video is going to be kind of long, but hopefully, whether you came here for my tippy top favorites or whether you came here for the Nikki La Rose set, hopefully this video is helpful to you. If you have any questions, if there's anything I somehow didn't address, leave your questions down below. I'd love for us as a community to share our favorite BK Beauty brushes with each other as well. So go ahead and drop some of your favorites in the comments. I'd love to hear back from you. And I will have my link to the BK Beauty site listed down below if you plan on doing any shopping during the Black Friday deal. I will also have Nikki's brush set linked individually down below. Now, I do think that your best deal, and I don't know this for sure, but I do think that your best deal on that set would be to use a creator code of some sort. You don't have to use my code, but some code, so that you get a deal on that since it's not listed in the Black Friday sale. So my code is Keep Beauty Real. That is not affiliated, by the way. You can use it and get a discount. I always like to be clear on that. The discount code is not affiliated, but the links down below will be. So if you choose to shop those, I will earn a small commission. All right, lovelies. I always enjoy these brush chats with you, and I hope you do as well. It really means so much to me that you take some time out of your day to spend it with me, and I will see you really soon.